Pressure's on them.
Now we're recording. Okay, good. So that was the last thing we needed to check out. So let's go ahead and kick it off. You ready? You ready, Julie? Yeah.
Yes, as ready as I'll ever be.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to today's free webinar, Evolution Over Revolution, How to Transform Your Testing with our guest speaker, Julie Gardiner. I'm Rex Black, president of RBCS, a worldwide testing and quality assurance firm serving clients ranging from small startups to Fortune 20 global enterprises. Since 1994, RBCS has delivered insight and confidence to hundreds of clients around the world. We have a team of international consultants that deliver customized training, consulting, and expert services to companies that are looking to improve their testing, quality assurance practices. And today we welcome Julie Gardiner as our guest speaker. I have known Julie since, I don't know, like 2002, 2001, something like that. We were met at a STAR conference in Boston, if I remember correctly, and I introduced you to the joy of eating lobster.
You did. It was the best lobster I've ever had as well. Yeah.
They are fantastic. They don't look like they would be anything good to eat, but they certainly are. Julie provides independent consulting, delivery, and training in all aspects of testing, management, and Agile. She is a certified Scrum Master and Agile coach and has over 25 years of experience, including time as a developer, a DBA, a project manager, head of operations management, and head of R&D. She's held positions of test analyst, test team leader, test consultant, and test manager, head of test and Agile roles in the education, public sector, financial, broadcasting, insurance, utilities, retail, web, and telecom industries using both traditional and Agile methodologies. I like that broad experience. No, really, I mean, so many people have, they know one domain and they know it really well, but they're haven't seen it from a lot of different angles. So I find that really helpful. Prior to forming Testing Rainmaker, Julie's previous roles included Director of Digital Engineering and TQA for Hitachi Consulting, Head of Test and Implementation at a UK bank that shall remain nameless, and Director of Product Management for a test tool company that shall also remain nameless, but I suspect I could guess. That's the Dawn connection, I would suppose. In this presentation, Julie will let you know how to transform your testing. You may have heard the saying, the only constant on any project is change, yet the prospect of change is rarely welcomed, either personally or professionally. How is it that we still believe that these changes apply to others but not to us? Julie says that now is the time to reevaluate and transform how we test in order to deliver more value to organizations from a people, process, and tools perspective. She examines how we've got to this stage in terms of our role and what skills are vital for us to be prepared for the next stage. As always, if you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please submit them via the webinar interface, but please note that they're answered only at the end. So let's jump right into it. Julie, take it away.
Thanks, Rex. I'd like to start by quoting JFK, because JFK said, "Change is the law of life, and those who only look to the past and the present are certain to miss the future." And thank you for the introduction, Rex. And I really do believe that we're in a massive period of change. And how do we, as testers, adapt to that change? So as Rex already mentioned, I'm going to talk about a number of different things, a number of my experiences, just some lessons learned, and also where I think we may be going in terms of our skills on one thing and another. I may say some things that are controversial before you rule them out. Please have a think about it and say, well, could this be right? Could this be true? Before kind of dismissing it completely. So I am going to be I might be a little bit controversial, but that's always a good thing. Hopefully that will provoke some questions for the end. So I've said it's evolution rather than revolution because things evolve. Things are actually changing all the time. And, whether it's how we listen to music, how we shop, how we watch movies. And Rex, you mentioned about going to the movies, but in this wonderful situation that we've been presented with COVID, those movies are going not to the cinemas, but straight to us now as well. And we've seen over, you've been very kind and said 25 plus years, Rex. I've been in the industry a lot longer. After you get to 25, I've decided just to not say any longer how long I've been in the industry. But we've seen massive changes in terms of technology and how we need to do things as well. I quite like this slide, although I will tell you, if the middle one that says the evolution of dating, if that's what the evolution of dating is supposed to look like for 2020, I'm going to stay single. It's as simple as that. And even our human needs, we've got a Maslow hierarchy of needs has been around since the 1950s. We're now saying actually it's not just about money being our basic needs and food and shelter. It's that wonderful thing of Wi-Fi, and even worse than that, if you don't have your battery, then all of a sudden our lives seem to grind to a halt. So evolution, and the reason why I think it is more evolution rather than revolution, even in the COVID world, we've adapted, we've pivoted. We haven't drastically, changed how we're doing things. We've just actually adapted to where we do our testing as well. But evolution results in change, and let's be honest, change is a human thing rather than a human response. So we all say, yes, we want change. I'm sure everything that you're doing in your current company is great, but you also already know things that you want to change as well. But when these changes start to happen, we go, yes, let's go for change. Change is wonderful. Change is great. But then as part of that change, we recognize that it's something that we have to do as well. Then suddenly the interest in actually doing that can be a lot less. So it's like, well, who wants to change? Yes, all of us. But who actually wants to change? Well, that's a different matter. I actually had, I generally don't say where I worked. The UK bank is one of the reasons why I sanitize that. And I was talking about change in my current assignment at the moment. And we were talking about, right, so this is what we want to change. We've said all these things. We want to improve it. This is what it means for you. And then all of a sudden they said, well, why do we have to do it? Because it's their problem. It's like, yeah, that's the reason why we need to change. So, and how we adapt to that can can determine our success. So I'm going to use this analogy. It's used on quite a lot in terms of adapting and evolution. So let's start this journey, and I'll start with the biggest thing that I think that has transformed what we do in terms of testing, and that's the world of technology. You see, I'm of a certain age. It wasn't that long ago I was still working with clients who have mainframes. Don't knock the mainframes. But the technology determines how we do our testing, what services we can actually provide, and how we need to pivot as well. So whether or not you're right at the far right-hand side of this, working with the likes of drones and IoT devices and wearables and all that great stuff, fabulous. But remember, you may have to go back if you change a role. I'm not encouraging you to leave your companies. But if you do, you need to know how testing needs to be done in those particular companies and industries and situations. You may be still working with mainframes. I know quite a few companies still have mainframes. So how do you actually be in a situation in terms of testing where you're actually having to test on mainframes, but you're also having to test mobile devices and do different delivery cycles as well? So regardless of where you are, we do need to make sure they're context specific. Now, I want to share with you a story. I have sanitized it to protect the company. I've even taken away the year that this actually happened as well. So this relates to a very well-known organization, actually. And the testers in that organization believed, we needed to start looking into automation, which was great. A test execution tool, actually. This should really be about a story on test execution. So they started actually creating the scripts, they created the framework, things were progressing nicely. They actually started with 2 people. They actually increased the team to 4 people in total. By year 4, I was actually asked to go and speak to this company, and the VP of engineering said, this automation thing, we've got a number of people doing it. I'm not really seeing the value. So is this something that you can look into? Not only am I not seeing the value, they seem to ask for a lot of time to do it, and can you really look into this situation? So I was on the consultancy assignment. So if you think about it, they had 2 people working on it for 4 years by this point. and they had actually got 2 people in for the previous 2 years. So in terms of 12 years worth of effort, I was going to ask you to guess how many regression test scripts that they'd actually created for their suite. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you off and let you listen to me as I go on. They'd actually created 117 test scripts. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what those test scripts are doing. And one of the questions I actually asked the automation lead was, let's have a look at the scripts, but also, when you need to make a change, and these guys were in a more agile, well, delivering every month so I wouldn't say they were really agile. They got some agile concepts and practices, but they weren't being agile. But that's another conversation altogether. When I said, look, when something changes, how much time does it take for you to maintain these scripts and update these scripts? And the automation lead's response to me was, well, we don't really save time. We just rewrite it completely, and we just try our best. And basically, they were saying they throw it away and then they create a new one. But the approach that we're taking wasn't really giving them the value for money. They were taking an awfully long time to create these scripts, and then as soon as something changed, they didn't even think about maintenance. Now, the reason why I'm actually sharing this story is for 2 reasons. I want you to think about, if you are doing automation currently in your organization, is it adding the real value that your company is looking for? We invest a lot of time, we spend all this time, but do we ever stop and think about, is it adding the real value that we're looking for? Where is your automation in terms of maturity? Are you actually still doing some approaches that are difficult in terms of maintenance, or actually are you investing the right amount of time, getting the right amount of value? And that's amazing, and I hope you really are in that situation. And if you are in that, that's the present. But what about the future? Where is your company going from a technology perspective? Are they going to be able to be reused to get the best value? So the reason why I wanted to share this as well is the moral of this story is sometimes that you have to take a step back before you can take a step forward. What we actually did in this company is we scrapped the approach. We started to look at what was actually needed, how we needed to do it, get some more education for the 4 automators and the remainder of the test team, and we started from scratch. Now, obviously, messaging was I'm being open and honest and said, we scrapped it. But obviously, I didn't quite go back going, no, you're not getting any value. I just said, this is an opportunity for us to improve along the way. And one of the key messages I want to get across in this webinar is, for me, communication is the key to any change that you want to do. So we're going to do another quick session on that too. So in terms of our execution tools, we've actually gone through a transformation about how we actually approach these. We started off doing the wonderful capture screen tools and linear as it's now called. And some industries I know are still using this, some companies should I say, and if it's working for you, great. Most organizations I'm working with are more on the data-driven approach. But I think it's really fascinating what's coming out in terms of our, leveraging machine learning even, and artificial intelligence and visual automation to actually accelerate what we do as well. I think this is a fascinating area. But once again, it might not be suitable for your organization. So just because that's more of the leading thing coming out at the moment doesn't mean to say it's the right thing for you. Now, I did work for a tool company, and this is a slide I showed when I worked for the tool company, and as you can probably tell, it didn't go down so well. I do believe tools are incredibly important. The future from a testing perspective is to understand how we can leverage tools. But I do think tools and technology are a useful servant, but a dangerous master. So we need to make sure that the tools are actually working for us, in our way, as opposed to, we'll change everything because that's what the tool wants us to do. Now, the great thing about our industry as well is we've got now a plethora of tools available to us. And I think this is what we should be leveraging from a testing perspective, whether it's just basic knowledge or if it's actual tool use. If you're, depending on your industry, then this is the thing that I believe you should be making a major investment in. And I'm making that investment too. But with that investment becomes time. And I like to use the analogy of we call it in the UK a slider puzzle. I know in Scandinavia, they call it the 15 game. And I don't know if some of you actually remember it. I've still got one, look, I've still got one. And the slider puzzle is there to illustrate the need for slack, the need to actually have this time to get up to speed and become these toolsmiths that our companies are going to be needing us to do. And the reason why, so the objective of the game, if you're not aware of it, is to actually put these numbers in order and to move the tiles around. And in order to move the tiles, you need a spare tile available. But if this was a project, or if this isn't an organization, some managers sometimes see the spare tile that you need in order to move them around as inefficient. So they fill it. And as they fill it, that also means that we have no time for improvement. We have no time to actually learn these tools that will allow us to be more effective for our teams and more efficient in terms of what we do from a testing perspective, whether that's from a prep, setup, actually doing the checking and also the reporting. So our role has changed. When I first got into testing, which was a while ago, we were like the enforcers of quality. We were the police officers. We were the gatekeepers. We were the ones that said, no, we're not shipping. And we were sometimes seen as quite a bottleneck. Nowadays, I'm seen as being more enablers of quality, going across the life cycle. Making sure that we're getting the right business needs, we're making sure we get good requirements and user stories and great acceptance criteria, helping our designers, helping our developers, helping our DBAs, helping integrate all the quality things that we are desperate to get to save time, money, but also service our teams in the best way possible. I think it was Henrik Nieberg. I was at a conference a few years ago, and he said, QA should actually stand for quality assistance. And I love that. I think what a great phrase. And I try to encourage that kind of concept in teams nowadays. So how do we do this? And we've actually evolved over a period of time. So, when we first started looking at testing, it was all about the positive test, happy path. And controversially, I'm going to say, I find a lot of agile teams only look at the acceptance criteria. And if it passes acceptance criteria, it's good enough to go. I don't believe that is the case. Either your acceptance criteria isn't quite right and it needs to be fleshed out a bit more, or we still need to do other paths. Doing happy path isn't giving us a realistic expectation about what our customers will actually do with our software. So we're all about, doing the happy paths and everything else. Then we kind of went, from an industry perspective, went kind of crazy about finding bugs. We've got bugs, how to break software, and it's like, come on, let's go, let's break that software. I'm all for that. I want both. I absolutely want both. And then really we started to see even more of a distinction between the kinds of testing we're doing. So not just the functional and also the non-functional, but also this idea about checking and testing. I have to tell you, I love this slide. This is my favorite usability bug. I'm still confused by it, and I've shown this for quite some time. This is from a game, and it says logout failed. You need to be logged in to log out. Please log in to log out. Okay. No, not okay. I don't know if I'm in. I don't know if I'm out. I don't know what to do. I'm like, I'm still confused. I'm actually going to call this the hokey cokey bug going forward, because it's like in, out, shaking it all about. You should always be, if any presenters on the session today, always be careful about what you show. I was once teaching a usability tutorial, And I showed this. I said, this is my favorite usability bug. And the lady put her hand up, and I said, oh, yes. And she said, that's my software. And I was like, oh, well, and I started laughing, I'll be honest with you. And then I said, well, at least I found you a bug. And she said, yeah, I'm actually a developer as well. So I was like, great, go fix it. I don't know if it's been fixed, but yeah, always be careful about what you show sometimes at conferences as well. So it's just fair. I like that one, it makes me laugh. And then we started to say, you know what, let's start to leverage more tools. The best tool, as far as I'm concerned, for a tester is your brain. But there are other tools that can actually take away the boring parts of testing. Yeah, these are the automated checks. These are the things that we can leverage to take away, the boring part of testing, and get that level of confidence, and then use our wonderful brains to do more of the usability and the exploratory testing and the great test design stuff. That's the thing that excites me. That's the thing that gets me, I think, makes me feel passionate about what we do. I even tried to, some of you may have actually heard about the different schools of testing. We seem to have all these different schools. I once tried to see if we could actually get world peace for testing. And the lightning keynote was, if testing was a beauty pageant, what would we all want? And the answer was world peace for testing. And my solution to bringing all the schools together was to bring a school of all schools. And I had a little manifesto as to what it really stood for. Just basically appreciate everybody's points of view and one thing and another. Didn't quite work out. There was limited uptake on that. But, use what's right for you. Use what's going to work for you. I don't care which school it belongs to. If it helps me do what I do best, then I'm going to use it. And then finally, we start to be more in the world of DevOps, this enabling of quality, being able to make sure that we've got the best possible delivery in the time that our customers, well, our clients, our companies want us to deliver, and being able to actually help with that enablement from a quality perspective. Now, part of that means that we have to be a lot quicker in terms of spinning up environments, setting up our data, running our automation scripts, doing our reporting, to help them along the way. Quite recently, and when I say that, I mean last week, someone said to me, what would you, if you were setting up a team, or what kind of skills would you be looking for? And I kind of put, I want all my testers to actually have some fundamentals, some core skills to be looking at. So every tester needs to know good test design techniques and what test techniques can help them. I want everyone to at least have all the test tool knowledge and understand what we can leverage them for. I'm not going to go through this list. I am going to talk about the soft skills in a moment. But the fundamentals, so that we can actually adapt to our technology and our situations in terms of process. And then obviously we need people from looking at things from a business perspective. The World Quality Report said basically the two key things that they want from a testing industry is to know that we're actually delivering something great for our customers and our clients, and also, that leveraging technologies such as AI and machine learning. So I think that we're actually in a great position where we can get to know about so many different things. And some of us will go more on the technical side, some will go more on the business facing side. There's quicker that companies want to go. Typically, I would say that they would actually be wanting a lot more technical skills. But for me, without any of these core key skills, I think that we're not helping doing the true enablement that we're looking for. Because regardless of your technical skills, you always work with people, and it's always a people issue. So if you're wanting to instigate change in your organization, you need to be able to communicate effectively. So the role of QA, there's lots of different things we do. We need to be this trusted advisor the right information to make informed decisions. We need to be that quality conscious on the projects and training and helping. We need to be a guru in the skills that we've just been talking about, at least to be, have those conversations. We'll all have specialties, but they have that generalization across the world as well. And we also need to be able to do what we talk about. But from this perspective, I would strongly recommend the thing that's actually helped me the most are the two things we're going to talk about now. The emotional intelligence side and also the communication side. So I would strongly suggest you look into emotional intelligence. I started writing a book on emotional intelligence. I liked it. I was trying to do one thing with the book. It was called Emotional Intelligence for Testers. I was trying to do two things with it, and it wasn't quite working, so I'm reworking it now to be more like my style of speaking and writing. So if anyone wants a copy of that, let me know when it finally comes out. So here's some examples of emotional intelligence, and it's not lost on me that the people that have got high emotional intelligence on this slide are aliens. But anyway, Homer Simpson, Sheldon, we all love Sheldon, but in terms of emotional intelligence, he's not doing the best. He has an opportunity to improve on that side. And I would say this, for me, at least, has been the thing I'm continually trying to improve upon. So the right-hand side of this slide is really just to give you an idea of the 4 key concepts in relation to emotional intelligence. Part of it, half of it's all to do with you, and the other half is how you actually interact with others. As I say, this for me is something that I keep on trying to work with. I've been involved with some amazing people. So in terms of gurus, they know their stuff. It's absolutely, hang on, they know their stuff. But in terms of emotional intelligence, they're not quite there, and they're not getting their message across as well. And because of that, then other people have to maybe potentially help with that, or they get frustrated and move on, and that's just a shame to a company itself. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was this communication style analysis. Now, for me, this is something I've been using for the past 19 years. This helps me communicate change in organizations. So if it helps me, it might help you. And I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. You're going to get a copy of the slides anyway, but you may want, I can add some extra slides in relation to this, you'd be interested in it. Now, when you look at this and do it at your leisure, I've got an example here, is don't think too much about it. This should take less than 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. But the idea is that you actually just go through a number of words and say, just choose one out of the 2. So typically, and if you're struggling and say, well, I'm very different at work compared to personal, then choose work, okay? So at work, am I pretty friendly, or do I like things to be a little bit more formal in how we speak? Am I quite approachable or retiring? Am I casual or businesslike? Am I open or guarded? Am I unstructured or very organized? Am I quite social, or am I more of an introvert? Am I quite intuitive, or do I like to think of things from a logical perspective? Am I quite random in how I do things, or do I have a good area of focus? Am I warm or cool? Now, this isn't, trendy cool. This is just how you speak. Is it, is warm as like, hi, how you doing? How things are going? Or is it more of a, hello, let's just get on with it. Am I quite perceptive or insensitive? And you choose one out of those rows. Now, when you get to that point, once you've answered those, count up the number of the words that you chose on the left-hand side. So in my example, I've actually chosen 6 to put onto my x-axis. You then do the same for the y-axis. So am I to the point or fairly indirect when I'm talking? Am I quite challenging, accepting, quick or leisurely, insistent, thoughtful, lively or relaxed, impatient or patient? This is clearly not mine because I'm very impatient. Am I adventurous or cautious, confronting? You get the idea. Once you've gone through these words for your y-axis, you count up the ones on the left, the words chosen on the left-hand side. So in my example, I've got 2. Then you plot this on a graph. So mine was 6 on the x-axis and 2 on the y, which comes down into this bottom right-hand quadrant. So let me just quickly go through the communication styles and try and give you, I'm going to take it to the extreme to try and illustrate the point. And then hopefully you'll start to see why I like this so much. So the analogy I'm going to give is, imagine I've got a laptop that's arrived in a box. It's a prompt on my desk, and I've got to connect it to our network. If we've got 4 different styles, so I'm going to take them, as I say, to the extreme. And the first one, so if you're actually in the top left-hand quadrant, is called the Pragmatist. Now, in the Pragmatist, this is how a pragmatist, extreme pragmatist, would actually handle it. So no offense, Rex, I'm going to pick on you, and Dawn, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to use your names. I hope that's okay. So imagine I've got a box, and I'm a pragmatist, okay? So pragmatist mode. Right, okay, my laptop's arrived. I've got to put it onto the network. I don't really know how to do that. But more importantly, I'm not the best person to do this. Rex, Dawn, you, this is what you do all day. You actually connect all this stuff for people. The most quickest and most efficient, most effective way of me getting this laptop onto the network is for me to give it to you, because you know what you're doing is fast, quick, friendly, efficient. Can you do that for me? Now, Rex, just nod. You're the only person I can see, so just nod.
Sure, why not?
Rex, you're my favorite now. Okay, so the quickest, the most efficient, and most effective way of me to get this done is for me to give it to you. Now, pragmatists, if you're strong on the pragmatist, you hate meetings, right? You may be the kind of person going, Julie, hurry it up. I've got it. Move on, move on, move on. You love lean. You know, you don't want to do this wasteful activities. You want to make sure we get the best results in the shortest time possible. The next one, the analogy is going to be the same for all of them. The next one's the facilitator. So same thing, go into facilitation mode. It's like, okay, I've got a laptop. It's just arrived on the desk. It's got to be connected to the network. I don't know how to do this. Rex, Dawn, could you help me? I don't know how to do this. And this would be a great learning opportunity. So could you help me? Could we do this together? Do you see the difference? Before, it's me giving you that activity. The facilitator is like, hey, let's do this together. Let's work as one. This will be great for us. You know, I'll take you for a coffee afterwards if that's all right. Maybe pizza, maybe lobster, Rex.
Lobster.
Lobster, there you go.
I would accept lobster as a payment. As soon as we've got the vaccine, we can go out and have dinner and have lobster.
Gotcha. I'm going to hold you to that, Rex. So it's all about, you know, the facilitators. You know, when we're transitioning to Agile, you're like, why wouldn't we want to work with our developers? Why wouldn't we want to work as, let's pair. This would be great. This would be amazing. Now, the analyst, if you end up being an analyst, please do not be offended by my extreme example. So if you're an analyst, you've got a box with the laptop in, the first thing you will do is you don't rely on Rex and Dawn. No, you will open the box on your own. And you will find a fabulous thing called the delivery note. And what you will do is you will make sure that every single little thing that should be in the box is in the box. And then you will find another thing called the user manual. And you will go through the user manual and technical installation and everything else, page by page, until you fully know exactly what needs to be done. And then you don't need Rex and Dawn. You can do it for yourself. Now, please don't be offended by that. I will say the analysts, typically you get some really great documentation out of people who are strong in analysts. If you are a strong analyst, you may be thinking, prove it. Where's the evidence on this model? then you're probably going to be a strong analyst. And then finally is the pioneer. So the pioneer, same situation, gets the box, opens the box as quickly as possible. It's like, oh, brilliant, my laptop's here. Oh, what's this delivery note? Forget that. What's this user manual? Yeah, forget that too. Let's just put it onto the network. How bad can it be? If it goes wrong, that's what warranty's for. Let's just go. Now, I'm taking that to the extreme of a pioneer. But a pioneer, it's like, yeah, let's try this experimentation. What's the worst that can happen? We'll learn from it. What's the problem with that? Now, you'll get different opposing views. And the reason why I was saying you may want to get more detail on these is each one of these quadrants has likes, dislikes. You'll see conflict in your teams depending on what proportion of communication styles you have. I've also built upon this model as well. So what I've actually done is I've actually mapped Belbin, Myers-Briggs, DISC. I'm also doing some work on conflict styles, so the TKI work, and also how your energy affects your communication style as well. So if you're interested in any of that, once some of the, it sounds bad, once the studies have been done, then let me know. Now, I've been using this for 19 years, okay? And what I usually do, I don't always go, yes, you must do this test so I can work out your communication style. You'll hear it. You'll hear it in what they're saying. But more importantly, look at what your style is, but also what about your manager's style or the people that you're trying to influence. You see, if you don't know what their styles are, you have to cater for all four. So, if you're doing something like TDD, you want to introduce that. Pragmatist, you talk time and money. Time saved as a result of that. Make it as quality first, think quality before anything else, but also it's going to save us time because we're not going to have to rework things. Analyst, case studies, documentation, whatever you can find to substantiate the claims you're making. Pioneer, what's the worst that can happen? Facilitators, let's get dev and test working together trying to do this TDD. So you can tailor your message to an individual style, or you can actually do it across the board to achieve all four. Now, can I just say, this has actually helped me so many times in that evolution of change, whether it's process, tools, people, and introducing continuous improvement. All right, finally, I think, is on the evolution of process and value of testing. Another case study, I've taken out the timescales, I think, on this one as well. I'm actually working for this guy now, but a number of years ago, a CAO was actually saying, I'm not seeing the value of testing, but more importantly, the test manager was saying, they've got lots of change happening, we can't keep up, you're struggling to see what the value is. And he was very brave to say, look, we need some actual help. So I came in, they got me, sadly, and we put a number of little things in place. We started to create test charters for our exploratory testing, test strategy. We did an attitudes and behaviors thing to actually help the testers have an extra voice. And it's okay to give bad news and things like that. We started introducing some tools. We started doing some metrics, although I'm very anti some metrics, but we can talk about that later. But probably one of the biggest value that we did was start to communicate in terms of product risk. And this, for me, once again, is a tried and tested thing. It's helped me in organizations. It may help you. What actually happened, and it was over a 4 months period, we had a big release for this company, and I'm going to show you actually part of it. We actually brought in more of the UAT. We started doing more experience-based testing with the UAT people. We started introducing more exploratory testing and heuristics and things like that. The greatest achievement that we had in that company was traditionally they had a yearly release for this one particular system. Typically, they would get between 30 and 120 P1 or P2 bugs in a 30-day period. When we went live, we had no, within the first 30 days of release, we had no P1s or P2s. But more importantly, the business actually started to trust us a lot more in what we were doing. So my question for you is, what information are you providing and why are you providing it? I am quite controversial. I don't like people, saying, well, I report on the number of test cases. That to me is meaningless. That hasn't had as much value in my context. And if it's really providing that value for you, then great. But for me, what I'm going to show you in a couple of slides' time has been the biggest benefit for me. Now, I will tell you, this photo on the left-hand side is actually the company. That's a guy, I won't tell you his name, just in case he's on the call. But we were actually monitoring, just doing some very simple monitoring through a very sophisticated tool called Excel. You can actually see in the background the attitudes and behaviors. But what I'm trying to get across with this slide is make sure you're tailoring the right information at the right level. So from a team perspective, it may be something internally that you want to be reporting on. When you get to more of a release level, going over the overall product, and then obviously to executives and senior managers. What I'm going to end on is my secret weapon, okay? I love this slide so much. I love this slide so much that if I could translate this slide into a man, it would be my perfect man, because it is that good. Certainly for me. So I like to, and whenever I go into an assignment or company, I say, would this be useful for you? And it's really about communicating the product risk. And this is the beautiful swan, as I call it. There's lots of work behind the scenes that you need to do. This is a discipline, this is specialism, from, as far as I'm concerned, from a testing perspective. So the idea is, on any project, whether it's an agile project or if it's in a more traditional one, we have outstanding product risks, things that may influence the quality of the software being delivered or threaten the quality. So if we do a risk assessment to actually determine what those risks are on a high, medium and low level, that can shape what we use, what techniques we use, how much time we spend on it, what developers do, and so forth. We always know the end date. So as we go through our testing, some risks will materialize. Some risks will be removed or reduced. But here's what I say to executives. I say, forget the end date. Forget it. You could go live at any point in time and your test team will, or test leads or whoever, will be able to communicate the high, medium and low product risk. Now this is a beautiful swan, okay? In my 19 years of using this, there's only ever been one company who hasn't implemented this. And I go, would this be useful? And in that instance, that company said yes, but we never got around to it. And for me, this has been really the turning point in terms of value. So I'm mentioning this for two reasons. Firstly, if your metrics and your reporting isn't, giving you a right voice at the table, maybe this is something that you want to look into. And there's lots of things behind the scenes in relation to this. So all your test cases, all your results, all those kind of things are happening behind the scenes. So I've talked about technology. I've talked about us in terms of our role. I've talked about how you can actually communicate change. I'm pretty sure there'll be some things that you could improve in your organization, and is getting that message across in the right way. I've talked about how we may want to actually reposition what value we're actually given and then make those changes. I really love this quote by Selena Delessy, who says, change is a given. Your response is a choice. I love that. It's up to you if you want to do these changes, if you want to make them, if some of them appeal to you, if some of them don't, then that's fine. It's all about your context as well. But I hope this has actually helped you see some things that you may want to look into. So are you ready for change? I hope that you really are. I'm sure that I speak for Rex as well as myself. If there's things that we can help you with, then please reach out to us. And my final thing I'd like to say before we open up for questions is thank you. Thank you for those who have actually stayed with me to this point. And thank you to Rex and RBCS for giving me this opportunity to have a chat with you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. we're going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A here. And I've got some questions, but we'll let the audience start first.
Nice ones would be good.
Pardon me?
I said nice questions would be good, but I've got maybe challenging ones.
I think we've got a mix. So from Daniel here, and by the way, the reason I'm looking away is because I've got a second screen over here. I know from a video point of view, that probably looks kind of odd. Daniel asks, hello, Julie, given that change is inevitable, per the last slide, and the nature of change in all things is often unknown, how do you adapt your approaches to those unknowns?
So I think it's about your mindset first. So, you know, if somebody's, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a good example. I'll give you an example. I'm currently working on an assignment. We've just started I can't say too much, but we've got a massive data lake where we're now wanting to leverage machine learning on that. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've heard a little bit about it, but as soon as that was mentioned 2 weeks ago, it's like, okay, I'm not sure how how we're going to do things from a testing perspective. You know, on the machine learning, the AI side, what are you testing? Are you testing the algorithm, or are you actually testing the data labeling? What do we need to do? So I think in terms of the first thing I hope I can do is not be precious about any of this stuff from my perspective, and just say, okay, well, so what's going to work for us, what's not going to work for us? I think for me, I know it sounds silly, but it's the people side. So trying to have a growth mindset, be open to the change, not be precious about things because they're always going to change, but also say, okay, well, in this particular instance, how can we as testing help in that particular situation? So the first thing I did was start to get some of my testers looking at how we can actually leverage machine learning. How can we actually help verify what's actually going on is correct, and just adapting and seeing how it goes, and not assuming everything's going to be perfect, because it's not. So
flexibility, right? It's being flexible and trying to be able to roll with the punches, as we say here in the United States.
Definitely. You know, as I said, I mean, whilst I love my favorite slide, if that's not going to work in your environment, in your context, it would be foolish to use it. So I'm not precious about it. It's just that it's something that really helps me. I could turn it into a perfect as well, though.
Speaking of your favorite slide, let's go back to that, because Amy has a question about that specific thing.
Yeah.
So, and this is a great question. She says, what are you communicating when it comes to risk? Is it around defects? Is it around not tested business processes? So I think what she's asking is,
what is this?
If I were to put labels on the left-hand side next to each swim lane there, I get that green means low risk, yellow means medium risk, and red means high risk. But what specifically, maybe give some examples of what each one of those lines represents. What is an example of a high product risk, a medium product risk, so forth?
Perfect. Amy, you're my favorite now. Sorry, Daniel. So let me just, before I go into it, let me just show you, this is the nice thing that fits on the slide. Let me just show you this one here. If you look at the far left-hand side, do you see a lot of yellows and greens? There are a couple of reds, by the way. And there's like 3 pages of yellows and greens. That is an actual product risk assessment. What I've just been talking about on the slide we're going to go back to, that's what it can look like in real life. Let me just go back. I love it so much. I'll show you the animation again. Basically, this is part of a proper risk assessment approach. Now, you know, Rex and I both know a lot about this, but
yes.
Product is anything that may threaten the quality of the software being delivered. So, and you'll get to it's a proper process. It's a proper risk assessment. So you would go do 3 key things: identify your risks, analyze them, looking at likelihood and impact, and then try to determine what to do about them, if anything. Now, one of these, so any of these risks, so I would say, look, if you want to look at just starting off with something, look at all your requirements. Okay, so I'm just going to make very high level one. That first red could be, we may not be able to log on using a valid username and password. That is a very, very high level product risk, because until we've actually demonstrated that we can log on with a valid username and password, that risk is there. Now, you may think, well, it's ridiculous, but if you don't test for it, how do you know? And this, just let you know, this list will also include your regression tests, because unless you actually run those tests, you don't know if they're going to work. So another risk could be, our software may not allow 50 concurrent users placing orders, and until you've actually done performance testing to demonstrate that that's possible, then that risk is there. A low risk may be, sorry, go on.
So the risk is basically mitigated when all the tests that you planned for against that risk have been run, and no must-fix defects remain to be resolved based on those tests being run.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that this is a beautiful swan. So behind all this will be all your tests, all your bugs, and the progress of that will be determined. So it may be, you may not have seen it on the previous one, but there were some that actually went from yellow to green and then back to yellow or to red, and that's when you've actually encountered a bug that you weren't expecting.
Right.
So it's because of that, we know bugs are social creatures and they hang around together. So we found a bug there. We now know that there's actually a greater risk of something not being quite right in that software as well. So I would say, Amy, look into this. Speak to me. This is a discipline, as far as I'm concerned, from a product risk perspective. But if you want that voice at the table, definitely go for it. I was the first time I actually applied this, I was a test manager, and I was sick of, those go, no go meetings where they say you're going. That was me. And I'm like, but we haven't run all our tests and blah, blah, blah. And they weren't listening to me. And I don't. So I started to implement this. And then 2.5 years later, I was a bit of a geek. Went into analyst mode, clearly. I actually looked at the number of maintenance releases and the big releases that we actually had. And in total, we had, I think it was 326 projects. And when I started to actually do this, we actually got to the end date, and 82% of those, we actually had our timescales extended because the business said there was too much risk. And it allows you to have those conversations. You may get to that point, like in today, where there's 2 high, 1 medium, and 3 low. And they may go, you know what? Let's just concentrate on the high risk. Once that's done, let's go. Or I've been in situations where they go, we're going. And it's like, well, I'm okay with that. I used to be the wrong. I'm okay because, I've helped you. If you want to take that risk, that's your choice. Your choice. And hopefully those risks don't materialize. Although sometimes I've had them where they do, but never mind. But at least they can't come back and have a go and say, well, why didn't you let us know? I hope that helps, Amy. I say, get in touch with Rex or myself. We'd be happy to help you get this going. I love it. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I actually, Amy says, yes, thank you. I've done quite a bit of this, as I'm sure you know, and actually co-wrote a article which is posted on the RBCS website with a fellow at Sony about something very, very similar to this. It is basically a graphical way of displaying the same kind of information. And then you've got the drill down underneath where you can go, okay, you get a certain amount of graphically represented risk. Well, let's drill down into what is that residual risk.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, and that information is so important for us. And that what I usually do at the end is I give a little bit of a commentary. As I say, I haven't found a tool that will actually do this for me or help me do this. So I use a very sophisticated one called Excel.
Yep. Same here. I mean, I always tell clients, if you're going to put together a fancy test dashboard, before you do that, prototype it in Excel and get it to be exactly what you want before you go spend a bunch of time and effort on some sort of BI package where you're going to try to make these super fancy automated graphics, you know, it's like Excel can do a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, where I currently am at the moment, we're actually feeding in all our continuous integration and feedback loops on the automation side. But we're still not real time. Yeah, but, you know, at least.
You're getting there. All right. Well, this has been great. We're at about our time limit, so I'm going to go ahead and close us down here. So thanks to Julie for giving this thought-provoking presentation. This has been recorded and it will be posted. So Julie will let you know when that blessed day arrives, which will be shortly, and then we can share the links around on social media and so forth. And I thank everybody for attending. I hope you all enjoyed this free webinar from RBCS. We do these free webinars as a service to the software testing community because at RBCS, we are a not just for profit company. If you enjoy our free webinars and feel that they demonstrate solid insights into the kinds of testing challenges you face, please make RBCS your preferred software testing vendor for any and all expert services, consulting, or training. Happy to provide a quote for any such help you need. You can contact us at info@rbcs-us.com. So thanks again, Julie, and I enjoyed it. Thanks for staying up late over there in the UK. I guess you weren't having to face the awful choice of webinar versus pub, because I guess the pubs are still closed or they're closed again. But someday, hopefully, we'll manage to meet up in a pub or a restaurant or something.
You said lobster. I'm holding you to lobster, Rex.
Lobster it is. Somewhere suitable for lobster.
Thanks, everyone. Happy testing.
All right. Thanks, everybody.